Today we're checking out The Last of Us Part 2, Collector's Edition Ellie statue. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, stay safe, and let's get into it. Hey, what is going on guys? Today we're checking out the Ellie statue from The Last of Us Part 2 Collector's Edition. So this game was officially released a couple days ago on Friday the 19th of June 2020. There's a lot of controversy about this game. I'm only a couple hours into the game so far, but I've got to say I'm really enjoying the game and I hope you guys are as well. I mean, I am pretty shocked at what's happened, but for the most part it's a pretty solid game. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to check out this video. If you guys are new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more unboxing reviews and ring that bell notification. So let's take a look at the packaging. So here's a look at the outer box for this edition. I really love the design, such nice artwork. And inside that we have another box and the statue is inside here. Here's a look at both of the boxes for both of the collector's editions of The Last of Us. So this is the post-pandemic collector's edition of the first game, and here we have The Last of Us Part 2 collector's edition. I'll get the statue out of the first game a little bit later on, just so you guys can see a comparison on the two statues for both editions. Okay, and so here's the statue out of the packaging, and guys, this is such a nice piece. I must say, this is probably one of the best, if not the best statue that I've ever seen for a collector's edition for a game. I mean, all the detailing, all the paint jobs, all the sculpting is absolutely superb and it's turned out way better than I expected. It's also a lot bigger than I expected as well. I mean, from the video, you probably can't tell how big the statue really is. But I've got to say, when I first got the statue out of the box, I was super surprised at how big it was. I think it measures around 12 inches in height. So yeah, I'm super impressed with the statue and I'm really happy to have it. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Stay tuned guys. Okay, and so let's begin with the head sculpts on the statue. So I do think the head sculpt is pretty good. I think she has quite a nice likeness to how Ellie looked in the game. I mean, of course it's not going to be 100%. I mean, no figure or statue out there is going to look exactly like how they do from the game. But I mean, for the most part, I think they've done a really fantastic job here. I mean, just look at the sculpting in the face. This is such a step up from any other collector's edition statue out there that I've seen. I especially love the blood on the side of her face. I think it looks great. I mean, it's a very cool pose. The fact that she's bleeding and she's sitting down here just peacefully playing the guitar. I think this is the guitar that Joel gave her in the game, which is very fitting. You can see all the strands of hair sculpted in there. It's actually quite nicely done. And it's got quite a nice paint job as well. As you can see, it's painted like a dark brown, but it's got like all these highlights of light brown in there. And she's even got like the strand of hair just dangling down here over her face, which is made out of a softer piece of plastic. Here's a look at the clothing on her jacket piece. I mean, look at all the textures. You can really make out all the fabric details in there, all the folds and creases. It's really quite insane detail. I really don't know what this tattoo is supposed to be. I'm only a couple hours into the game so far, so I really don't know what this is. But yeah, it's a very cool tattoo, and it's also painted very nicely. It's got a pretty clean paint job, and I don't see any defects on the tattoo whatsoever. So yeah, they definitely did a very nice job here. There's a look at the bracelets around her wrists, which is a very cool detail. I love the fact that they actually gave us like a life-size replica of this bracelet in the collector's edition. It was just such a cool item to receive. And so here's the guitar itself. So I do think the paint job could be a little bit better on the guitar, and I think it could use a bit more texturing, but I mean, for the most part it is quite nice. And you can see like all the strings sculpted in here, and the paint job is pretty good here on the neck of the guitar. Her hands look super realistic, and just all the paint job, like all the bits of dried blood on her hands, is such a nice touch. And so moving down here to the trouser piece, or the pants of the figure, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, look at all these fine details, like all the texturing, all the clothing textures that have been sculpted in here. And here's a look at her feet, or the shoes. I love the sculpting here. I mean, it's such a simple detail, but I love the fact that they made her laces like dirty, as if she's been walking around in the mud. I just think that was a really nice detail, which they picked up on. And yeah, I love the design of the shoes. I think they're Converse, I really don't know. And here's a look at this rock pillar, with like these pieces of pipe poking out at the side, like these metal wires. And here's a look at the base. So I think the base isn't that great. It's definitely not as detailed or nicely painted compared to Ellie. I mean, Ellie is really well done, but just the base, it looks very rushed. I mean, there's really not much fine details here. It looks very blurry, and I don't think the paint job is that great. But I mean, it's a very minor detail because the main focus point is, of course, the statue of Ellie, not the base. So I'm not going to complain too much, but I just wanted to point that out. But I mean, look at all the rock here, all of the mud. I guess it is pretty nicely done, but it just could be a little bit more details. And here's a look at the name plaque. So we have The Last of Us Part 2, which I think works pretty well. I wasn't sure if I was going to like this base, but now that I've got the piece in person, I think it actually works pretty well. And I like the fact that the whole entire statue is just on top of this base. It just makes it feel complete. And here we have the side of the statue, and we have a nice profile of the face. I mean, look at all that detail, all the blood, all of the little fine details sculpted in there. I love the hairpiece so much. And moving down here to the shirt piece on the statue. Once again, all these fine textures on the clothing. And here's a look at her arm with all this blood around her elbow. I think the blood actually looks pretty realistic. They've done a great job here. And here's the sides of her hands holding the guitar. And I love this backpack so much. I think they actually made like a life-size replica of this backpack in the Ellie edition, which was so cool of them to make. But yeah, here's how it looks in figure form. I love all the folds and creases. It looks so realistic. And down here, once again, we have the leg piece, like these jeans, with all these nice textures. And the sides of her shoes. So we have all these rock details, all these metal poles poking out of the concrete. All these bits of rock, like mud and dirt and whatnot. I think there's like a bit of water here, but it doesn't really show up that clearly. And so as for the other side of the statue, it is a little bit different on the side. So here's a look at the profile of her face. So as you can see on this side, she doesn't have the blood, and I think the hairpiece is a little bit different on the side as well. But I mean, look at the sculpting there. Really insane sculpting. Moving down here to the arm. Once again, she has all the blood around her arm, like around the elbow. And there's a look at the side of the tattoo with the bracelets. As you can see, the guitar gives off a nice shine and reflection in the lights, which I think looks great. And there's a look at the neck of the guitar itself. Moving on here to the backpack. So this side is pretty cool. We have the machete here, tied onto the sides of the backpack. And we also have a couple arrows here at the top. So of course you cannot remove them. They're stuck directly onto the backpack. But yeah, it's a very nice detail nonetheless. Once again, all these metal poles embedded in the concrete. And here we have the sides of the legs and the feet, like the Converse, I think. Very, very cool. On the side we have all this rock and all this vegetation growing on the concrete. And I quite like the new hairstyle of Ellie. I really think it suits her a lot, and yeah, it's a lot different looking compared to how she looked in the first game. But yeah, I think it looks great, and it really suits her character in this second part of The Last of Us. Even down here to the backpack, I mean, look at all these details. Like all these little badges and pins sculpted in here. I mean, the details are very fine, which I'm super surprised at. You can really make out every little bit of detail on like all these pins. And here's a look at the top with all these zips, all of these like little tags and whatnot. And on the back of the pillar, we have all of this vegetation, like all these plants growing out from underneath the rock, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, it's a very hidden detail. You really can't see this plant unless you really take a look. So yeah, I think it was really cool of them to actually include this. Okay, and so this is just a quick comparison on both of the statues for both of the collector's editions of The Last of Us. So here we have the statue which came with the post-pandemic edition of the first game of Joel and Ellie. This is such a rare statue now. Super lucky to have it. But yeah, I really love this statue a lot. And here we have the Ellie statue, which of course comes with The Last of Us Part 2. I think this is probably my favorite statue now. As you can see, both of the statues are different scale, which is really unfortunate. I think this statue is 1/7 scale maybe, or 1/8 scale. And this statue is 1/6 scale, so as you can see, it's pretty big. It's way bigger compared to the first statue. But nonetheless, I love both statues and I'm super happy to have both of them. So here's a look at Ellie from the post-pandemic edition of the first game. I mean, I love this design of Ellie. Such a classic design. And of course, the statue of Joel is really awesome. I think these statues were actually taken from the 3D models of the actual game, so they're super accurate. But yeah, the detailing is just really top notch. And as you can see, there's quite a big difference in terms of the quality and the sculpts. I mean, look at the sculpting here, it's so much more crisp and clean. And even the paint job is much better. Whereas this statue, I mean, it is pretty nice, but I just don't think the sculpting or the paint job is as good as the Part 2 statue. So yes guys, this is a very nice piece. I mean, if you guys are a big fan of The Last of Us, then you really gotta pick up this edition. I mean, this statue is absolutely top notch. And as I mentioned, it's gotta be one of the best collector's edition statues that I've ever seen. It's just absolutely superb. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit that bell notification. I hope you guys enjoy The Last of Us Part 2. Have a great time playing the game. Take care, stay safe, and yeah, I will catch you guys on the next video. Alright, take it easy guys.